Hi, it's Mal, your gal pal, the host of Those Are the Girls with Mallory and Friends. If you're looking for a podcast that's talking about relationship, careers, and pop culture from the Christian perspective, look no further. You have found her. And this podcast, myself and some of my friends are sharing our opinions from the Christian perspective, and they might be a little bit different than what you're expecting. So go ahead, pour yourself some tea. Let's get into it. The views expressed on this podcast are our own and do not reflect our employers. Enjoy. Hello, you're listening to Those Are the Girls with Mallory. I'm Mal, your gal pal, and let's do this. Okay, yeah, I need a new intro. We're in the working phase. Hey, welcome. It's been like 2 weeks, I think, since the last episode. A lot of tea today, and I don't want to be like gossipy tea. Like, I don't necessarily want that to be like my vibe, but part of the reason why I have this mic and platform is honestly to get things off my chest and to really, not to like pump myself up, but like speak for the people. There's a topic that we're going to go over today in this podcast that when I say shocking, a shocking number of women reached out and said they agreed with me. They hadn't really spoken up. It's kind of like awkward to say something because of, certain people's platform and blah, blah, blah. But I truly don't care. But yeah, so like I feel like I don't know, I just got to share it. So like I said, I don't necessarily want to be like tea, even though like that's kind of like the theme. Also, you guys like my mug? It's kind of like the theme of the pod, but like that's not. I don't want that to be like the vibe, I guess. But whatever. So yeah, so lots to talk about today. I guess we should just get into it. Let me pull up the docket just to see if there's any. I know what I was going to say. If you have not already, I've talked about this before, kind of going like starting to be less on social media and do a lot more analog. Not analog because it'll still be like online, but in my personal life, I am trying to go more analog. But anyway, not be on social media as much. I'm doing a newsletter, and June's newsletter will come out. And essentially, in the newsletter, it's just going to be some like really cool things that I've done and some suggestions. And then at the end of this episode, I'm going to tell you about this thing I saw on TikTok that I'm 100% doing. And I would love if someone else joined it with me. We could be doing it like together as like friends. And then if you don't really have a lot of friends in your town and you're like, oh, I want some friends, we can do this together. I have a confirmation that one of my friends is going to do it, one of my friends in real life, and I'd love if more did it as well. So we'll talk about that toward the end. But make sure you go to thosearethegirls.com and sign up for the newsletter. Put your email in and you're going to get a monthly newsletter. That is my goal. June, there will be a monthly newsletter, some really cool things that I've done, as well as recommendations. And like, I want to also do like books that I've read that have been really good this month. Well, the June one will be like encompassing the whole year. Or like a really good podcast that I listened to that was just like, life-changing or really interesting, or like a topic that I kind of deep dived in one night because, sometimes you just do that. So yeah, that is what the newsletter is going to be. I think you'll like it. Yeah, I guess that's the only announcement I have. Oh, I guess really quick, I want to say, and I'm going to do a blog post about this. I went on a work trip and I want to do, like I've said before, I just want to do more content around the idea of us Christian women who are not married and we don't have kids, but we still want to live a godly life. We still want to be, productive members of society, but there's never anything for us. So I want to work on doing that. So I went on a work trip and the work trip was actually really great. And I want to like give some tips, some things that I saw and whatnot. Also, I also realized I took out my braid. I randomly decided to take out my braids today, so the curly hair is out right now. I don't know how long it'll last, but for those who are tuning in, they're like, whoa. If you're like watching this, you're like, whoa, she looks different. I took the braids out. Well, the twist out. And if you're listening, now you know how I look. Okay. Oh, I'm also wearing a flower crown from the water. If you have the Water Lantern Festival is coming to your town, you should totally go. I have wanted to do this since like 2019 when I first saw it, and then COVID happened, and then this and then that, and then this and then that. And I was living in a different city when I saw and heard of it, but I saw it and I was like, okay, I am doing this thing. So I sent it out to a bunch of my friends, and the people that should be there were there, and it was just so fun. you go. I'll do like if you follow the Instagram, those are the girls as well as my personal page. I'll have like the little video about it. But it was, gosh, guys, it was a blast. And that's where I got this crown from. This flower crown. It was like $10, which I thought was a lot cheaper than it was going to be. And I was going back and forth, should I buy it? But then I was like, this is definitely something that I'm going to wear, as I am wearing it now. And then I actually wore this dress. I did not wear this necklace. I forgot I had this necklace. This is one of the ones I made. And then these earrings. But yeah, it was if it comes to your town, you totally should go. And it was also just like a really cool activity to do with your friends. And it was supposed to rain that day. And it did rain a little bit, but I have a tent that I use for pop-ups when I do for my jewelry store, and brought that. Everybody brought chairs and we sat under our tent and we just kind of just like laughed and talked and worked on our lanterns. And then we went and we put our lanterns down. It was just like, it was such a fun experience. Like, if it comes to your town, grab your friends and you should go. All right, that's the last thing. We should get into what we're going to talk about today. All right, so I guess let's just talk about the big news. That's going to probably be the bulk of the episode. My thoughts, my opinion on the Alex Cooper getting pregnant. Everyone and their grandmother has had an opinion. Everyone and their grandmother has, said whatever. And I want to share mine. I pretty much shared it in my Instagram stories on my personal page. If you're not following that page, you totally should. On my personal page, and I kind of want to elaborate more on it and kind of give, elaborate more is really what I'm trying to say. So, as we all know, Alex Cooper, who is the host of Call Her Daddy, and that show talked a lot about being promiscuous. So that's the term I want to use. A lot of people have used other words that I personally don't want to use. And as I've gotten older and more mature, learning, reading, and, trying to be a better Christ-like example, there are certain terms that I want to use to get my point across, as well as not to like dilute my point. I think sometimes, and that's another thing that I'm going to be talking about in the second segment. That's another thing. If you're truly trying to have people listen to you, change hearts and minds, then speak the truth, and you don't have to use talk to people like they're humans. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So anyway, I'm going to use the term promiscuous. That was kind of like what the vibe was, teaching girls ways to, when you're sleeping around, be a good girlfriend sexually and that type of stuff. That was like her vibe. And then she got married, and then it's been like a year and a half, and now she's pregnant. A very typical 20s, you're sleeping around. 30s, toward the end of your 20s, you get married. Beginning of your 30s, you have your kids. You live in a nice heterosexual little bubble, 1 + 1 = 2 type of thing. And the reality, so this is another thing too I want to talk about, which will also lead into the second segment, but there is a reality that we live in, and there is a reality that we live in, and then there's perceptions online. I think sometimes if you have not gone out and touched grass enough, I think that's today's theme in general. Today's theme, I think, is just touching grass. If you have not gone out and touched grass enough, you're going to think that these little things you see online are the real world. It is going to cloud what is the truth, and how people are interacting and being with people. Online is not real life. I cannot stress the importance of going out and touching grass. So like I said, that is a lot of women's trajectory in America. That is the truth. That is what I have seen in my personal life. I can tell you this personally, that is how I've seen it. A lot of women are promiscuous in their 20s. They get married. They find a really nice man. And some of them are like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should not have done that. They repent. If God forgives them, why on earth should I hold it against them? And then they move forward. They get married. They're not, as some are saying online, punished. That's another thing that I see. And because of living in the real world and not online, you see, when you start to do this, ladies, especially you young ones listening, I know I have some girls who are in college or right out of college. Once you really start living in the real world and you realize these things, you're going to see things, you're going to see people a little differently, and that's okay. There are people who want to punish women, and I feel so awkward saying that because, on the Twitter and everywhere, the women who are saying that, those are like the rah feminists that, like, down with the patriarchy and boo men. Like, those are the ones who, that's the like language that they use. But I don't know any other type of word to describe how some of these men react online. I will say online because let me tell you, in real life, men are not acting like that. I will get to that in a second. These men online, how they're reacting is like they want these women to be punished. And that's just like not reality. And sure, I don't think that you should spend your 20s sleeping around. I don't think that's the best use of your time, the best use of your body. And as a Christian, and those of you that are listening that are Christians, that is not that I don't think, I know that's not what God wants for us. That is not God's best for us. That is not the best way to bring him glory. Okay. So that's another thing too. I want to say, like, I am not pro this. I'm saying I'm looking outside. I'm living my life. I'm touching grass and I'm seeing that is the trajectory of a lot of women. They're not punished. They are not, it's not this big thing. As someone who was on dating apps and, really trying to find their person, the moment you start telling a guy that you're abstinent, I mean, it's two things. It's three things. They either automatically unmatch you, and then they don't even have a conversation, which honestly, sometimes I prefer that. They go, oh my goodness. I had this one guy, wow, you don't hear that a lot. Abstinent? Oh man. Well, in the future, I'm looking for a girl like you. Not right now. Mind you, he's 38. Or an F you, I can't believe this. You shouldn't be, you're fat anyway. Okay. So that's the trajectory of it in real life. Are there men out there who want to be abstinent? I'm sure there are. I legitimately haven't run into any, but statistics are, there are men out there like that. Okay. Like I said, I haven't run into any, but statistically, there has to be. This isn't to, single Christian women. This isn't to like make you feel bad. I'm just telling you, like, once again, I'm looking at the sky, it's blue, and I'm not trying to tell you that it's red. A lot of people who had takes ABS, for example, and I talked about it, ABS specifically, I specifically saw her take. They're looking at the sky, telling you it's red. They're trying to convince you it's red. The sky is blue, okay? The sky is blue, and this is the truth. So anyway, now what do we do with that information? They're not promiscuous. Women are not punished. And that's just kind of how it happens. So the whole Alice Cooper being pregnant is not like a betrayal. I think I want to say Evie magazine said that. Someone else said that she lied. Some other, right of center Christian organization put out stuff. I saw they lied to you, which is why I had to speak up. Like, I really had to speak up, especially when I saw ABS's. But yeah, like, she didn't lie. And here's another thing too, which I always found interesting. The people that I know that are left of center also want to get married. They also want families. They also desire love. I don't know why, like, some of these influencers who I would love to get them outside touching grass. I would love to run a program where we can get some of these right of center, quote unquote, Christian influencers outside to touch some grass. I would love to be in charge of that program. Some of them, like the people left of center, want a good chunk of the same things we do. That's something that always mind boggled me, even when I was like more in the, in the zeitgeist or whatever. And I would speak up about it. Like, one thing about the reason why everything is how it is now is because one thing about me, I have not changed. A lot of people have, in a negative way. Of course, I didn't change in a negative way. Me? No. Anyway, so they want the same thing. So it's like, this isn't shocking. And I think that so here's the other part as Christians. I think that when we are telling young girls that, save yourself, your husband is going to want you to be, to be a virgin. He wants you to say, like, he is going to value that. Not only is he going to value, God is going to value that. God is actually going to give you a husband in your early 20s. If you go that straight and narrow, God's going to give you your husband in your early 20s. When we tell women that, and we tell them that, X, Y, and Z, your heart is really what matters, and we're telling them these things that are true, in the sense of what's on the inside, and your heart does matter. It really does, to an extent. We'll get to the real fact of the matter in a second. And, God does want to, that's what he's called us to be, calls us higher to be holy. And there are 1,000,001 reasons. Take out, because of God, the STD rates, pregnancy, if you're, not prepared, we can talk about that. A lot of women, it is something emotional. You don't want to just do this and move on. And it's okay you don't have to fight that, because men want us to just go and do it and move forward. Sometimes a lot of women do it and they become emotionally attached, and that's that. So these are reasons not to do it outside of marriage, and these are good things. There's nothing wrong with that. Lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this? As Christians. So we're telling girls that this is what it is, and girls are going into certain things with an expectation that God is going to bless them and honor them. And it's not, I don't want to sit here and say that it's not true. I don't want to sit there and say that it's not true. I want to sit there and say there are so many other factors, and a lot of things in life are not just 1 plus 1. Sorry, a lot of things in life are 1 plus 1 equals 2. A lot of things in life are 1 plus 1 equals 2. If you are the beauty standard, if you are friendly, if you go out and enjoy yourself, if you put yourself in certain situations, 1 plus 1 equals 2, you will find someone. If some of those things are not it, we're taking out promiscuity, we're taking out having a good heart, we're taking out all that stuff. If any of those things I just named are not in there, then 1 plus 6 is not going to equal 2, or 1 plus -3 is not going to equal 2. So, does everybody understand what I'm trying to say? I think this is the reality. This is, I'm trying to tell you the sky is blue when the sky is blue, and people online, we're trying to tell you the sky is red. And I think that is truly what it comes down to. Now, also, sometimes the person God has for you, well, even, I'll say this, not that I don't believe that God has a person for everyone. I just think that you can truly make it work with anyone if you two are going in the same, if you two want to make it work, you can. It'll just be more fun to make it work with other people. Me and Bob could make it work if Bob and I have the exact opposite morals, goals and dreams. We can make it. If we decide this is what we want to do, we can make it work. But me and Larry, Bob and Larry, but me and Larry are aligned in our goals and our morals and our values, so it's going to be a lot easier. I don't think it's this, which, a lot of women don't necessarily agree with me on this. I don't think this big thing oh God, I got to make sure that my heart and foot pop and kiss. I personally don't believe in all that. I think those are great things, and I in a romantic way, that would be nice. But I also think when it comes to actual marriage, it might not necessarily be like that it might not necessarily, you might have the foot popping. Let me back up. I believe that the romance and the foot popping kiss and all that stuff is really good and important. But I also think that from a practicality standpoint, is also good for other aspects. But I think a lot of times women put more emphasis on foot popping kiss. Not that you shouldn't have foot popping kiss, but really what needs to be more, I'm saying women, men too, what really needs to be more important is the practicality of things. Everybody picking up and putting down. So all that to say, as Christians, so I'm going to conclude, I guess, this part. As Christians, I think it's just important for us to remember that what we do is for God. It is for the applause of God, not the applause for man. The reality is there are going to be, especially in today's society, for a myriad of reasons, there are going to be nice, kind, abstinent Christian women who have, tried their best to bring glory to God and live a life that reflects his holiness, that is Christian, that are not going to be perfect. These women are not perfect. There are going to be women like that who are going to die single. That's just, sorry, that's the fact of the matter. And I think if we're telling young Christian women that the formula is XYZ, we're lying to them. I think we should tell women, this is what you need to do because this is how God has wanted us to do. This is what we need to do because this is what God wants us to do, and leave it at that. Talk about your physical appearance. I know this is tough, and as someone who, I'm not the beauty standard. I'm self-aware enough, and I'm not mad about it in the sense of like I don't want someone doesn't find me attractive. I'm not one of those girls that's like, you gotta find me attractive. No, I'm not like that. But talking to girls about it, I do wish that there was more emphasis on like being physically attractive growing up, and especially when I was younger. I wish I did put more emphasis on that, being physically attractive, because that's what men want. I'll say this, men are looking for someone they find attractive first, and then they care about those other qualities. That is the truth. I know people don't like to hear that. That is the truth. In my YR group, I talked to a couple of guys like, hey, what, like, you guys have girlfriends. Like, why don't your girlfriends ever come? Every single guy that I talked to and asked that to, that is because their girlfriend is a liberal and they're working on them, quote unquote, working on them, which is weird language in the first place. All of these guys said that. And these are supposedly Christian, supposedly conservative, and some of them are even Christian men. Okay. So, and there are single Christian women in this group. So, what is that? I always say 1 + 1 = 2. 1 + 1 = 2. So I think that that's just another thing just to keep in mind. If I could go back into my younger self, I'd say, girl, do whatever you can not to gain weight. Do whatever you can not to gain weight. It's really important to care about your appearance. If that's important. Now, once again, if we want to live a life of godliness, of being holy, of making sure that we bring honor to God, to Christ, if that's what we want to do, we need to also work on those things that God calls holy. Though that's also very important. But that's important for God. What's important for God and what's important for man, fortunately, it's not always a one-to-one. So I guess next, that kind of leads me to the next thing that I want to talk about. So let me make sure I said everything in here that I want to say. Okay. Yeah. So I guess it's kind of like a long time coming. A couple people have asked me, because I've said a couple times why I don't follow a lot of Christian content people, Christian conservative content people. And, a lot of people have, if you notice, some of those influencers on the periphery have kind of fallen off a little bit in that type of content, have kind of shifted. A lot of people have changed. Sorry, I don't know how else to say it. Or, yeah, I'll just say they changed, because people just have. Some people's priorities have shifted. What goes viral on the internet has changed over the years. I think this is going to be one of my best episodes. The reality is, it's not going to be as many as some of these big people who come on here and say, yeah, and all women are WHOR, and, that's why Black people should be slaves. And then, I don't even want to joke about the other one that they say all the time either. So that goes viral. That gets the clicks, which gets the money, which gets fueling people. And then it gets the people who don't go outside and touch grass. Because here's something that a lot of people forget, is there's an outside. There's a real world. There's a world outside of this internet. And a lot of influencers. What has happened over the years? So let me kind of explain some things. And this conversation that we're about to have, you and me talking at you, and I'm sure respond back occasionally if you'd like. I won't hear you, but go for it. This conversation has been inspired by different conversations I've had in my DMs over the last couple of months, just talking. Sometimes I'll share something and people are like, yeah, me too, girl. I'm feeling the same way, especially about the ABS thing. Once again, shocked. Because, at one point, ABS was like the Christian girly you go to. She was, dare I say, relatable. And now, God no, I can wax poetic. People in my real life, we've talked about it. Someone I know in my real life, we've talked about it. I just talked about it the day before I recorded this. So yeah, so let's kind of talk about like that kind of space or whatever. So when there was a time, I was like 2016 to 2021, 2022, where the internet was just politics. We stopped caring about sports and we just said politics, politics, politics. I'm saying we. I have always cared about politics. I was the most likely to be a politician in high school. Okay, so I was into politics before everybody else was. I'm gonna say that. During that time, we really cared about politics. It was like that was the thing on both sides. Everybody was talking about it. And during this time, a lot of people were able to build platforms, giving information, having discussions, debates. It was a time when a lot of people were like learning, and like those of us, in college, just graduated college and high school, I put myself in that category because in 2016 I was in college. I was in college, and then I was in grad school for a little bit. And during these times, we are learning, we are building our own, just like how we build our own faith, we're building our own politics, we're building our own beliefs and ideas and opinions, and we're listening to others. Some of us are also reading, hopefully. Some of us were reading and not just listening, but we're like growing, we're participating in these things, we're doing all these things. And there are people, and because of that, people were able to like create these platforms to build these like empires. Daily Wire, build these empires. They're able to get all this money, get all this funding. And I truly think a lot of people, so this is my overall philosophy. If you're listening and like, okay, what does Mallory actually believe? I believe first of all, I believe in the Bible, and all of my worldview comes from the Bible. And because of that, I believe everybody's an image bearer. And like, I do, like, my thing is like, every human being is valuable. So let's work so that we treat them as such. Every human being, let's work so we treat them as such. They are valuable. Now, I think a good chunk of people feel that way. I think your most leftist friend probably feels that way. Not the most leftist person you know, but your most leftist friend, okay, probably feels the same way. Everybody's valuable. Let's do what we can. Where we all differ is that how we think we should go about it. Now, there's going to be nuances here and there. For the most part, we all want the same things: to make sure everyone is treated equally with value, to protect our loved ones, and to protect our loved ones, okay? It's essentially like what we all want. Oh, and to be able to live a fulfilling life. Some people, that is to be millionaires. Some people, that's just, married, 2 kids, nice job, and a couple vacations a year. So that's some people's. Low-key, that's mine right now, okay? So this is what we all, but I would also take being a millionaire, billionaire. I take being a millionaire. Being a billionaire seems to be too much, but millionaire, that's just me on a tangent. But anyway, so this is what we all are wanting. And I do think a lot of people, even the people who've gone down that crazy rabbit hole now, that a lot of us have backed away from, a lot of us have decided to stop consuming their content. I think even them, they started off with the same goals, the same wanting, the same desire. What happens is the more you are in this, the more you see some really nasty, evil things, the more your heart hardens, especially if you don't, say it with me, touch grass. If you are not outside touching grass, I think you get so full of yourself, number one, because there was a time where I could walk into a conference and people would literally stop and like ask me for a picture. Okay, I'm just a regular girl. Head huge. Okay, I was like, oh wow, like this is what fame feels like. Oh my god, like Lauren Bossack scoot over. Like, that's obviously I wasn't like that conceited, but like that's kind of what happens. Now imagine that amplified by like 80,000. Okay, like that is how people. Oh, and also you have to have a certain type of the reality. You also have a certain personality to be able to come out on a mic and do this, to have a podcast in general. So there's already that aspect of it, okay? So these people are getting all this praise. They're being around yes men. They're having all this stuff. And then the other side. There was a time where there were people who were wishing me death almost every single day. And let me say, I don't even say anything like that radical. Like there's much worse. There's much worse. And yeah. And I think that like if you're around that, that's all you're hearing. Some of these people, we can discuss whether I don't think anyone deserves death threats. So we can discuss whether some of their action, no, I'm not even, no, because I just don't think anyone deserves that. Okay. So some of these people, like, that's their life. And it's like, that's all they think because they're not around anyone else that doesn't. And because of that, they surround themselves with just people who agree with them. And the only thing they see are these extremes, people who are like trying to, saying the absolute worst things and are, wishing them death. They have to get security to protect their children. That is the only other side that they're seeing. And they're in these bubbles. So their content, their demeanor, their, dare I say, relatability is going to change. And it has changed and shifted. I'm not just talking about that woman. I'm talking about many other women and men that and honestly, probably you don't consume anymore because it's just not, a lot of people are just out of touch. People are out of touch. People are cruel. And I've said this to a friend, and what has also caused me to take a step back and like reevaluate and see stuff too is when years ago, when I would have arguments and discussions with people, and they would always, and I'd see, I'd have discussions. A huge thing I would always hear is like, okay, well, I didn't realize that pro-life people were fighting for that, or like, oh, I didn't know they were like those pregnancy centers were actually like helping people. I didn't know there were pro-lifers who, aren't trying to like fire women, or like I didn't know pro-lifers were fighting for maternity and paternity, just all these type of things, like hearing like, my heart behind it. I would hear that a lot. And I kind of was like, oh, that's just because, well, I'm sure they've seen that. That's what I'm thinking. I'm sure they've seen that, but like I'm meeting them in person, so it's a little different for them. And then online, and even some of these people who have this big influence, who have these big platforms, would say some things, and it's happened gradually over the years. I promise you, it was not like this at the beginning. It wasn't like this at the beginning. It's happened casually, gradually, and what people who were, on the other side of me on certain issues would always say things like, well, cruelty is the point. And I remember hearing that, like, no, guys, I'm telling you, me and my friends, like, no, big name influencer here. No, they're not trying to be cruel. Like, that's not, it like shatters my heart. It makes me so sad to say, like, some people, cruelty has become the point. And it's kind of shocking for me. I mean, some people are going to, well, you didn't know yourself. Okay, sorry, I had faith in humanity. Sorry. You go out and touch grass now too. And it's just like, it really does seem like to some people cruelty is the point. And when people say, oh, I'm telling you, I'd be, no, not me, not my friends. But then you see some stuff at the beginning of the year, some things that were out there, videos people were laughing and adding to and participating in were just cruel. Sorry, they were cruel. And it's like, what is the point of this? And the only like cruelty for the sake of cruelty. So that's why I have like taken a step back from so much of that and have really like, my values have not changed. Like my overall like thoughts, like my overall like concepts, like what I believe is true has not changed. Content I consume has certainly changed, I'll say that. And maybe how I would handle things has changed a little bit too. I mean, I've said this from the beginning. When you're having conversations with people, when you are just talking and not even trying to convince them by anything, just like being a normal human, you can speak the truth with grace and in love. Like, you don't have to be so rude, brazen, like who's that going to help? And I remember this a couple years ago when I started noticing things were changing in a Facebook group I was in. People were making comments about something, and I'm just like, why are you guys doing that? Like when people say stuff about me, like my weight, and people on the opposite of me say stuff about my weight, like that, like doesn't make me want to change my mind. So like, why are you doing that to them? Because you know that doesn't work. Well, they're doing that to us. Who they'll do that. So what? I like that's another thing too. That's just another like pet peeve of mine. Well, you're being kind to them. You're treating them that way. They would never do you like that. Okay, like so like is this thing that I'm doing the right thing to do? Yes. So then why would I change doing the right thing to do because someone else wouldn't do the right thing to me? Huh? Like, I just don't understand. But you guys know, we've talked about this. I'm very black and white in my head. I don't understand that. Like the whole, well, if so and so was doing this, they'd want your head. Okay, well, but is that the right thing? No. So then why would I do that? Like, why does that change? Like my mind doesn't work that way. I don't understand you people. Honestly, what I want to tell you is to touch grass. No, but yeah, that's just something like I never understood that. So yeah. Do you feel this way too? Are there people who you kind of had like stopped consuming their content because of that? Oh, also a lot of fear mongering. Oh my god, fear mongering. I'll tell you something too. A lot of people, I don't know enough. I'm not in even close to in anymore. So I don't know enough, but there are a lot of people who truly think like these people hate me and they hate you and they would, kill you if they could. Like that's a lot of people's like mindset and like how they go about things, which is why they act that way. But like if you actually talk to your neighbor is not trying to do that. Your neighbor just disagrees that this is how you should go about it. Are there people that do? Sure. Are there people that want to kill the people that with the large platform? Sure. You who have 500 followers and you're following 8,000 people, no one is trying to do that to you. Okay? Like they're projecting on what's going on in their life onto yours. Your neighbor likes you, disagrees with you on some things, but actually kind of likes you and wants to go to the movies with you. Like that's just I think that like that fear mongering, that getting you to believe that, getting you to want to live like that, I think that is one of the like negatives. That is one of the reasons to like check out. Like get out of that. Leave and touch grass. Like consume other content. Because if you are going around thinking that your neighbor, everyone that does not agree with you wants to hurt you and kill you, if that's how you're like, if just think about that. If you are going around thinking, especially if you live in a suburb or a city, if you're going around thinking everybody wants to kill you or hurt you or something like that, like that's that's a tough life to live. I'll say that. You're not gonna enjoy yourself. So yeah, let me know if this is something you've been thinking about, if I'm, resonating with you. If I am and you're like, you know what, maybe I want to keep listening, you should. Because I'm not necessarily gonna like go policy for policy over conversations, but like I'm going to, pop culture things. I'm gonna talk about them. I'm going to share opinions. I have guests going to talk about like different things. And so, come another girl and join us. We're like, I feel like other girls are others, even in like circles where they should not be, where they should be like everyone. They're still others. Like we are, that is just okay. Like we're embracing being the other. That is what being other girl, like embracing being a little different. Okay. So I think that's that on that. What kind of leads me to the last thing. Hopefully it won't take more than like 10 minutes. It's so funny. I can like just ramble on. Right now I'm looking at the clock. It's like 44 minutes. So funny. I can just like ramble on without any stopping. But anywho, so the next thing I want to talk about is something I saw on TikTok that I'm so excited to do this summer. And I want to encourage you to do it too. This girl is doing this thing called Patch Summer. She said she and her friends are getting these like iron-on patches and they're going to iron it on their bags. Hello, that sounds so fun. And I went to the website and I'll link, ideally, well, by the time this episode comes out, I won't have it linked, but I'm going to link it in the newsletter. And maybe I'll even do a blog post about it later on. And then maybe I'll try to remember to add the blog post to this if you see this in the future. But there is a website that has where you can order patches, like, and then she's ironing on these like a bag every time they complete a task. And you know me, first of all, I love a craft. I love a craft and I love a goal. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick out 10 patches that I want to do this summer. I'm also going to scrapbook for the summer. And my friend is doing a craft night next weekend or this weekend. So ideally I'm going to get all the stuff to do scrapbooking and like get my bag, my canvas bag. It might take like a week or so to get my iron on thing. So once I get those, I'll show you guys. But like, I'm gonna get my bag and like decorate the bag somehow, maybe paint on it, make it something like cute. This is a whimsical mermaid summer for me. You should name your summer too. Name your summer, get some patches and join me in this. Get 10 patches and like take pictures. And then if you do it, like take a picture and tag me. This will just be tag those are the girls and Mal, your gal pal. It'll be so fun. Like let me look up the Instagram page. I want to give her credit because let me tell you, I like have hyper fixated on this ever since I saw it. So I want to make sure I give her credit. Un momento por favor. Okay, her name on Instagram is as told. I'm just like, let me tell you, like I said, I've been like hyper fixating over this. Like I'm so excited and like decorating my bag and like it's gonna be a blast. Okay, everybody's gonna be a blast. Do it, join me. Let's let the summer let's let the summer be like a time of kind of refresh. I know I still have to go to my 9 to 5, which God bless, but it still can be like a fun summer. And I think let's just let this time, we spend a lot of time outside, let's touch some grass. Let's all touch some grass this summer. I think that is the theme of this episode, and I think that should be the theme of our life for the next couple of years, honestly, is let's go out there and touch some grass. So yeah, I will link the patch website. So do the patches on the patch website, get your patch, let me know, we'll do it together, iron them on your bag, and then you'll have a cute bag for the fall. My summer, I've decided, started on Saturday, so May 23rd. It's going to end the Monday night of Labor Day. So that's going to be my summer. That's going to be my scrapbook too. I also have a digital camera that I'm going to make sure every time I do something fun, I'm taking pictures with my digital camera. And I'm going to try to print those every single time. So I took some fun. Oh, I only really got one picture. Well, whatever. I also have a digital camera. I have my iPhone camera that I can print pictures to from. But, I print my pictures from CVS. And sometimes it's like 94 cents. So if you're looking for like quick pictures, it's like same day printing, like 94 cents sometimes. So if you're looking to print pictures, if you want a scrapbook as well. And I think these type of like just hands, anti-doom scrolling activities are going to be really beneficial for our personal growth. I really do. I really do. And I think that it'll help you not develop into, obviously, here's the other thing too. These influencers are so out of touch that they're giving advice and they're doing these things, they're saying all this stuff that might apply to like them because they're at this certain level. So them and their peers. Some of the stuff, once again, like I think about sometimes they're like, so-and-so hates you. They will clap at your death. Well, I don't know specifically about that because like you and I are not at the same level. It's not good that they would clap at your death, but like the reality is like it's going to be a little different. But if you start internalizing that, I think like the more you listen, you start internalizing that, then you start seeing how you're acting. I mean, there were like, certain woman anti-empathy. There were times where I had to like check myself and make sure like, okay, am I being like unnecessarily cruel to someone because they just disagree with me? Once again, but I want to add, like, you don't have to change your beliefs because it's not the beliefs. That person, I agree with probably 90% of her biblical things because I am reformed as well. Maybe 90, I'd say. Not 100%, I'll tell you that. But probably 90%. But like, whenever I try to talk to people, I try to talk to them like they're stupid. I also try to be kind. I try to be empathetic or sympathetic. Anyway, let me think what else. So yeah, so I think if we do this, it'll help us to be more with our friends. Include your friends in this. It'll help us not be so consumed by these other people who are out of touch. So join me. Let's have a fun summer, everybody. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like it, you comment on YouTube, Spotify, share with all of your friends, tell everyone about it, and let me know. Seriously, let me know, like, have you been feeling this way about some of the influencers? What do you think about how everybody reacted with the Alex Cooper? There's been so much discourse that it's kind of been annoying. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is probably my last time talking about it. Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think about that? Do you think I'm off base? Do you think I'm the one telling you the sky is red when it's blue? I can tell you I'm not, but is that how you're perceiving it right now? Let me know. I'm trying to think of anything. Oh, I think that's it. Yeah, so have a good day, night, evening, however, wherever you are.